Wittgenstein believed that the most serious and profound problems and questions and issues could be discussed only in the form of jokes.
And look, not to get ahead of myself, we're only 28 seconds in, but this is always a interesting duality. I thought, back in the day it was tragedy and comedy. So it's like those two are interrelated. So he said only the most profound questions could be answered in the form of jokes. That's Wittgenstein, at least.
I mean, I know in U.S. lit, there's a tradition from about the 50s and 60s called black humor, which is a very kind of sardonic, sad type of humor.
Would you guys say that's Gen Z? Is Gen Z dark humor, or just? I feel like, actually, I'm not sure if this is exactly what I'm thinking about, but it's more like absurdism, I would say. But let's keep going.
I'm grasping for something interesting to say in response. I think probably sometimes it can be, and sometimes it.
Is Skibidi Toilet dark humor? Skibidi Toilet's just classic, good old humor.
It isn't. There.
Yes, thank you, Cool Coat. Gen Z with the irony ad infinitum. I mean, that's the whole DFW thing. Irony, it's a form of detachment, I feel like, making yourself be better than. It makes you, if I remember that essay, it was like kind of makes you immune from criticism. The antithesis of that would be sincerity. And so, because when you sincere, you make yourself vulnerable. So irony is a way to make yourself immune from that.
There are forms of humor that
W Skibidi take as well. W Skibidi take.
Offer escapes from pain, and there are forms of humor that transfigure pain.
Pause. Okay, I know we're only a minute in, but I did want to say I just saw this.
There are forms of humor that offer escapes from pain.
Because I've been going through my man search for meaning notes and looking at that, like what I mentioned about that, and one of the things he talks about in that book is how even in the Holocaust, like in the worst of the worst, people are still making jokes. And in fact, like dark humor, black humor jokes. And Viktor Frankl's philosophy, at least, was that part of that was because it's humor. It takes you out of the situation, if only for a few seconds. And as David Foster Wallace here says, escapes from the pain.
And there are forms of humor that transfigure pain.
Because in your books.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
okay.
Perfectly.
Okay. Now the perspiration starts. Okay.
A note on perspiration, actually, because he said so. I was watching like a little clip of the "This Is Water" speech, the commencement speech that he gave famously, but he mentioned something about like how he's gonna be perspiring. Something about, is everyone sweaty? Because like I know I am. It was something like that. Well, David Foster Wallace has to be this interplay of like dark humor, because obviously so much of his life is like shadowed by that dark stuff, the addiction, honestly, I know he's been accused of like the abuse stuff. I don't know anything that goes beyond that, except that he has been accused, but clearly bro's got a dark past, and maybe his way of transfiguring it, as he said, was humor.